Hey, sports fans, PB&Z Sports Chaos. And we're going to talk college football first because we got an epic weekend coming up, right? With the not the playoffs, but league championships.
Championship.
There's about 7 league championships. We're going to do a six-pack of championship picks, though. But I got to go back for last week for a minute. Bama, 4th and goal from the 31-yard line with 4 seconds left or whatever it was. They throw. First of all, Auburn does not rush the passer. Was that the most ridiculous thing you ever saw, PB?
Yeah, it was a crazy game, but
They seem to be playing like they didn't want the quarterback to scramble. The 3 linemen just stood there at the line, and I'm like, and he had 8 seconds to throw the ball, right?
yeah, you give anyone that much time, you're asking for it.
By the way, he still had to make a great throw in the corner of the end zone. I mean, it wasn't like the guy was wide open either at the end for that play, but wow, unbelievable. Hey, a little fun fact I heard about last week. So Iowa State, they beat K-State 42-35. No big deal, whatever. Nice game, blowout, high scoring. But Iowa State averaged 13.9 yards per play in the game.
Wow,
I saw that stat. I'm like,
crazy.
what? After I saw it on the ticker on ESPN, I had to go look it up, and that's what it was: 13.9 for the entire game per play.
Wow,
That's unbelievable. Yeah. All right. Before we talk the playoffs, see how the playoffs. We're going to talk the playoffs. We're going to talk about the implications for the playoffs with the games this weekend because I got some scenarios I want to get your opinion on. But the first thing I don't want to hear about is you Ohio State whiners like you, G Money. If you think you should be in the playoffs, you should have won the damn game against Michigan. It wasn't as close as you'd like to think it was. Michigan dominated from start to finish in that game, buddy. I'm sorry. You should have won. Ryan Day, by the way, you're 1-3. You've lost your last 3 against them. Most Ohio State coaches don't stay around long, no matter what your overall record is. Ask Earl Bruce, all right? It just doesn't happen. So
and you know what? I went against my own. I mean, I picked Michigan to be in the college football final, as did you before this year even started. You stuck with Michigan in the game. I went the other way. I just was kind of covering my hedging my bets, I guess, a little bit, but I really thought they could have hung in there. But oh well.
By the way, the one game that I'm a little PO'd I listened to you about, I was not going to pick Alabama to cover against Auburn. I had Auburn written down to you, said, well, Auburn lost to New Mexico State. And I'm like, oh, crap, that's a bad loss. Okay. I should have stuck with my guns. I mean, I'm already killing you guys with the picks this year. It would have been another game ahead, right?
You are killing it in college this year. I'm right there with you in NFL, though. But
I know. All right. Before we make some picks, so the game's the big game. So we've got, obviously, Michigan plays in the Big Ten against Iowa. There's a 21.5-point spread. We'll pick that in a moment. By the way, that game was 23.5 when it opened, so that's already dropped 2 points. Number 1 is actually Georgia. Georgia plays Alabama. Alabama has 1 loss on the year to Texas. We'll talk about that implication in a minute. You've got Washington, who's number 3 now, is playing Oregon, who's number 5. And by the way, Oregon's almost a 10-point favorite. I don't understand because they already lost to Washington once. And then the wild card in this thing is Florida State, who's still undefeated. They play Louisville without their starting quarterback. Louisville, by the way, looked like crap last week. So let me give you the first scenario I want to talk about. Michigan shouldn't lose this game at all, so I'm not worried about that. FSU should win even with the second string quarterback. Bama beats Georgia. Oregon beats Washington. Who goes?
Man, I was
FSU go. Michigan, they're already there, right? So they're already there.
You got to go Oregon in that case, I think.
I agree. Oregon is the other one. Is the third one.
And Texas probably.
I agree with you. They beat Bama in Bama, and as the coach said from Texas, if it was easy to win in Alabama, a lot of SC schools would be very happy right now, right? So it just doesn't happen. So yeah, you're right. You have to go with that. All right, here's another one for you. If Michigan wins, Georgia wins, Washington pulls the upset, and FSU loses, who goes?
Then you might see Ohio State sneak in, which I wouldn't want to happen, but that could happen in that scenario. It really could. Because then you have the 3 undefeateds, and then you have a bunch of one-loss teams you got to pick from. I don't know.
By the way, or Washington lost, but only gives them their first loss. I mean, why can't they stay in the mix then?
Oh, I thought in this scenario Washington won.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Washington won. Yeah, it was FSU lost. I'm going to ask that question in a second.
Oh,
I got Texas. I say Texas goes in that case.
over Ohio State. Okay, I mean, I would like to see that because, by the way, I did pick Texas to be in the CFP at the beginning of the year too, so I'm pulling for Texas.
Ohio State. I don't care what G Money says. They have one great win. Penn State.
Yeah.
You could say Notre Dame was a great win, but now Notre Dame has 3 losses, right? So
Right.
it doesn't look so good at this point in
Not as
time.
good. Yeah.
Texas has, I think, more wins when the team was ranked than Ohio State does. All right, flip it around. FSU does win, but in this case, Washington loses.
I think you got to give it to Oregon still in that case over Ohio State and probably over
No,
Texas.
Oregon. I think Oregon already takes that position at that point in time. So they take Washington's order position.
Okay. Oh, okay. So then you're looking for the 4th.
Yeah.
I still go Texas in that case.
Okay. All right. All right. I really don't think I've done the math. I don't see the scenario for Ohio State to get in is Florida State has to get upset. Bama has to beat Georgia. Oregon has to beat Washington.
Yeah, that probably would get them in. They would have to get in at that point, you would think. Yeah. You'd be dealing with a lot of one-loss teams. So
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't see Ohio State needs 3 of the 4 to lose. That's what I think at the end of the day. All right. So speaking of that, let's make some picks. First one we'll do Michigan, the 21.5 point spread. I can't believe it's dropped to 21.5 from 23.5. But the over-under is only, I think, the 34.5 on that game against Iowa. What are you thinking?
Yeah. Iowa might not score in this game. That's why. I mean, I see this game as a blowout. I see it as a 3 touchdown win at least. It's 21.5. So we're right there on the cusp. At the end of the day, I got to take the team that's dominating right now, which is Michigan. Maybe you're looking at like a 34-10, 37-13 kind of game, which would cover the spread. So I'm going to take Michigan. I'm going to lay the 21.5.
So Iowa, I think, has, if I'm not mistaken, the best defense in the Big Ten. I don't see this game getting to the spread, which means, to your point, if Michigan only scores 3 touchdowns, they don't cover. And I think that's exactly what happens, and that's why the spread's dropped. I'm going Iowa to cover, probably by a 0.5 point.
Okay. All right. And my prediction has them winning by 24. So they're right there too. I mean, this could go either way, but it's going to be right around that number. I think that's a great number by Vegas on that one. So incidentally, that game's being played at Indy, right?
It is, yeah.
Yep. At Indy.
All right. G Money took who?
G Money has Iowa as well on that one.
Okay. All right. The next one we're going to go, the one that has a lot of people, like we just debated about, Washington, number 3 in the country, goes to number 5, Oregon. They've already beat Oregon, but Oregon's a 9.5 point favorite in this game.
Yeah. But it's not at Oregon though. It's being played in Vegas.
No, correct.
Yeah.
So, interesting thing though, as much as Washington is very compelling to me because of their record, undefeated, and they beat Oregon. Their average margin of victory in the Pac-12 right now this year is 7 points, whereas Oregon in all their other games is like 20-something points a game.
Right, and I think that's why the spread's inflated. But then they're kind of like that. They're not an in-state rival, but they're obviously right next to each other up there in the Pacific Northwest. Games being played in Vegas. If it was in Oregon, maybe I could say, let me lay the 9.5, but I just find that to be a big spread against an undefeated team. And you're not even at home. You're at a neutral site. So I got to take the points. I do think Oregon will get revenge from the loss to Washington early this year. I think they'll put themselves in the CFP conversation, which I think they deserve to be, but I think it's a touchdown win. So I'm going to take the 9.5 with Washington.
I'm with you. And by the way, the 2 quarterbacks here, Penix and Bo Nix, to me, this is a Heisman moment for these guys. I mean, right now the money is on the kid Jaden. I forget his last name down at LSU. I can't see that at the moment. I think it's for these guys to win. One of them, the guy that wins this game, if he plays well, he wins the Heisman, I think.
Yep. I agree.
All right. Louisville FSU, that another neutral site game in Charlotte, I believe it is.
Yep.
Louisville looked horrendous last week. I believe did they lose that game? I think they did, correct? Right? Or they pulled out? I know it's an ugly game. I know it's an ugly game against an inferior opponent. FSU won against Florida. I believe they covered, if I'm not mistaken. No, Florida did cover, right? Yeah. But FSU won with their backup quarterback. It's a 2.5 point spread. What do you think?
I wasn't sure where to go on this one, actually. Obviously, I kind of want FSU to lose only because I don't think they can do anything in the Final Four. I'd rather a different, stronger team get in there.
We should have talked about that during our little preview of the. Yes, I agree with you because it's a blowout if they get there for sure.
If they get there, right, they're going to lose, and it's not going to be competitive. I'd rather see, even Ohio State or if it ends up being Oregon or if it ends up being, Texas. I'd rather see one of those teams just for the competitive nature of the game. So I'm kind of rooting for them to lose. For that reason, and I don't know. I don't know if they can do it with their backup quarterback. The neutral site 2.5. I think they win by a field goal. So I'm gonna take Florida State in this one, but it's not going to be a good game. It's the worst game.
With you. I'm almost so tempted to take Louisville at 2.5. I got to go with the team with more talent, but at the end of the day, one thing in the back of my mind is I saw Florida State in person win by only 2 against Miami. I mean, Miami, sorry, against BC. And I saw BC get absolutely shellacked by Louisville, not in person in that game. I watched it on TV down in Louisville. So that gets me a little bit curious, but I got to believe the better talent from 1 to 21 wins because the quarterback is not going to be the difference in this game for FSU.
Yeah. So we both got FSU. G Money is taking Louisville in this case.
Which is ironic because he's got FSU all year as his other playoff team. And for Louisville to cover, they got to win the game.
He just wants Ohio State to get into the playoffs, so he's just picking anything to make that happen. By the way, he did have Washington as well, so all 3 of us were in on Washington.
Okay. All right, here's the big one. Georgia and Bama. Georgia is a 5.5 point favorite, number 1 team in the country. What do you think?
Yeah, and this one's being played in Atlanta. I do think Georgia can cover the spread. I do. I mean, Bama has that 1 loss. I think even if they hadn't had that loss, they were undefeated. Bama would lose this game and potentially be out of the CFP conversation. But I think Georgia hands it to them. I'm going to lay the points.
I am as well. Although I wouldn't mind. I love to see Bama because I want to see the chaos.
And Georgia, Money's taking Bama, by the way.
Yes. Oh, yes. Ooh, interesting. Okay. All right. Wow. Interesting. All right. Oklahoma State plays Texas in Jerry's World. Oklahoma State was 13.5 earlier in the week. This has gone to 15.5.
Right.
Oklahoma State has a very convincing win this year when Oklahoma was still undefeated.
Yeah.
So because if Oklahoma ran the table, they'd be number 4 in the country right now. So I'm curious about this one. I'm just going to tell you right now. I don't think Texas should cover 15.5. I gotta believe that Gundy figures out a way to at least cover the spread. Maybe it's a 15-point loss, but that means they cover. So I'm going with Oklahoma State.
All right, and I don't blame you for doing that. But here's the thing: it could be a sucker's bet too. It opened at 13.5, and what happened? All the money was just flooding in on Texas on this one, and Vegas had to move the line up to hedge some of those bets. So I think it's a sucker's bet. So to take those points with Oklahoma State, I think Texas neutral site takes care of business. I'm going to lay the 15.5 and take Texas. You and G Money both have Oklahoma State in this case.
All right. I just haven't seen enough out of the quarterbacks from Oklahoma to think Texas, that they could win a blowout in this game. All right. SMU and Tulane. This one is one of the non-Power 5 games going on. This is interesting. Tulane's at number 22, and they're a 3.5 point favorite. I was all set to pick Tulane until I saw this morning. The Football Power Index, 72% in favor of SMU winning the game.
All right. Well, this is the only game out of all these championship games. This is the American Athletic Conference, and this one is played at Tulane. So this one is not in a neutral field.
Correct, right.
So for that reason, I'm going to take Tulane. I'm going to lay the 3.5. G Money is as well, I believe. Yeah, he is.
I got Tulane winning by 3, which means I'm picking SMU to cover the spread and to beat you guys again.
All right. Okay. It's not a bad pick.
All right, let's talk a little NFL. Let's talk a little NFL. Interesting weekend last weekend, obviously, including Thanksgiving when Deron Bland set a record or tied a record, the 5th pick six. By the way, believe it or not, that's more touchdowns than 20 of the fantasy football favorites going into the season. So that's impressive. And also, my boys won by 20 once again. 7+ games they've won by 20, which they're going to play in about 30 minutes. I've seen them doing it once again by 20.
Well, they won actually by 35.
Yeah. By the way, the game of the week, though, was the Eagles and the Bills, right? Going into overtime.
Overtime, great football game. Really good game.
First time ever when you had both quarterbacks threw for 2 touchdowns, ran for 2 touchdowns in an NFL game.
Wow.
That's impressive, right?
That
but
is
once
impressive.
again, the Bills lost, and they now have 6 losses, correct?
Yeah, they're 6-6.
Yeah.
They haven't had to buy yet. Yeah.
They're on the bye this weekend. Yeah.
Next weekend.
So, I mean,
well, this weekend. Sorry.
at the moment, if you had to put your money on it, would the Bills make the playoffs?
Yeah.
Because they still got a pretty tough schedule coming up. They
gotta
got Dallas. They got to play
yeah.
Miami again.
Yep. They finished off with Miami down here.
Yeah.
Which that could be the game. That could be the game that not only decides if they make the playoffs, but it also could be for the division. We'll see how things shake out between now and then. But yeah, I still think there's too much talent there for them not to be considered in the mix in the playoffs. I mean, they got to be one of the best 7 teams in the AFC, the way I look at it, at the end of the day.
On paper, they definitely are for sure, but it's just, and by the way, big news came out tonight. Von Miller has been accused of, I think, assaulting a 6-week pregnant woman, and there is a warrant, I believe, out for his arrest. So if he has to not play, that is going to kill this team, right?
Yeah, that'll go under investigation for sure. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So the other thing I got to mention to you, I know you love to bash these guys, but they are the number 1 seed in the AFC right now, and they also the defensive team of record in the AFC, number 1 in yards, number 2 in points, also number 1 in sacks with 47. The second best team at sacks is 66 sacks, 6 behind. That's not on the Baltimore Ravens. Can they sustain?
Man, they are impressing me. I mean, it's them and the Eagles. They're both like, both those dirty bird teams are really, hanging in and doing some things. I mean, I'm gonna say I'm gonna fold at this point in time and say, yeah, they're both playing good football. It's gonna be hard to pick against either one of those teams, but I think when you look at the NFC, it's 3 teams. It's Dallas, it's San Francisco, and it's Philadelphia, and that's it. So, and they'll, but when you come to the AFC, it's very, you got all kinds of competition in there. So to get through a playoff, especially if you're not the 1 seed, it's going to be pretty challenging.
Let's talk about these. Let's pick some of these week's games. By the way, I got to tell you, PB, I always pick the picks we're going to pick. I really struggle finding 6 games worthwhile to pick. And obviously, I didn't pick Dallas and Seattle because we're doing that and people might not see it. But 6 other games was tough to come up with. I mean, I got Atlanta against the Jets. The only thing I can say about that game is this. I think the Jets are going to get a little spike by the fact that, can you believe Aaron Rodgers may play again this year? He's targeting December 11th to play or something like that, right?
He's on the 21-day practice window right now to activate him. So
Atlanta Jets, I'm taking the Jets in this game. It's at the Jets. I think their team is sky high, seeing it. Rodgers on the sideline with a chance to play in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Atlanta played a good game last week, although ugly to win against New Orleans. So now they're the queen of the pigs. But I got the Jets.
Yeah, and Atlanta, they got the playmakers. I mean, the Jets have the playmakers too. The difference is Atlanta actually can do something. The Jets offense is so lethargic. It's painful to watch. And Atlanta was painful to watch, but that's because they weren't getting Drake London involved. They weren't getting Bijan Robinson involved, their best playmakers. This is going to be back and forth. I was thinking about actually making this my my fourth and inches pick. But I didn't. But I was
I could
thinking
see
about
that.
it.
Oh, you know what? A little surprise for you.
Yeah.
Someone might have.
I was thinking about it because this game certainly should be close. It should be low scoring.
I agree.
I think at the end of the day, Atlanta does pull it off, though. I'm going to go like 17-13 Atlanta in this one.
Well,
You and
PB,
you-
if no team scores 20, I think the Jets win it. And don't forget, the Jets are the only team in the league to beat who?
the
Philadelphia.
oh, that's right. Yeah.
So,
Wow, that's right too.
all right,
Oh my God.
here's another ugly game. And the only reason why I put this on the agenda.
G-Money has the Jets with you, by the way.
Okay. Detroit against New Orleans. Detroit looked like an absolute dog losing at home on Thanksgiving to Green Bay, who's a okay team, but they're not going to be in the playoffs, in my opinion. New Orleans could be in the playoffs because I think they still have a chance to win the NFC South.
Yeah.
What do you think in this game? Is this an upset special or not?
No, and Detroit lost at home in week 2 to Seattle too, which is turning out to be a pretty mediocre team in this league as well. So I think it's a bounce back game. I think this is the kind of game Dan Campbell fires these guys up and says, "Hey, that was a slap in the face of reality."
Okay.
And I think they come out smoking in this game. It's in a dome. They're used to playing in a dome.
Yeah,
They can
good
take
point.
advantage of all the speed. Jamar Gibbs has a big game. Monty has a big game. Goff has a big game. St. Brown has a big game. I think this is going to be a pretty big win for Detroit.
I'm going Detroit as well. I'm sure G Money as well, right?
He is. Yep.
All right. This is a game that if I said to you, PB, 4 weeks ago, we're going to pick a game in week 13, right? We're in week 13. In week 13, that has playoff implications. And I said, it's Houston at Denver. You would have laughed at me.
Yeah. It's at Houston, by the way.
Oh, Shiloh, are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I get that. Yeah. So Denver's at Houston. Playoff implications. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean,
By the way, Denver's on a 5-game winning streak, and they've actually given up in this 5-game winning streak less touchdowns than they gave up in the game against Miami.
yeah, no, they're starting to show, which is, great credit to, Sean Payton for rallying his team despite that poor start and really getting them into a position to win games against good teams, by the way. It's not like they're winning against these pushovers, but Houston lost last week. And I think this is one of those games that's a bounce back game. If Houston had won last week, this might be a little bit of a sneaky game for them to lose. But because they lost, I'm going to put Houston as the winner in this one. G-Money has Denver.
I'm going Denver as well. I think the team with better veteran players wins the game. And I think CJ Stroud, maybe the Ohio State quarterback in him comes out.
Okay.
All right, next one. Cleveland at the Rams. This one to me is an easy one. Cleveland is about to start Joe Flacco, maybe, who's been at home knitting, doing needlework and stuff like that, needlepoint. And now he's on their team as of 3 days ago, and probably is going to start this game on Sunday. Matthew Stafford's the quarterback of the Los Angeles Rams. There's no way in the heck they lose this game. I know Cleveland's got a really good defense. Rams have been playing better. By the way, Kyron Williams, I believe is his name. He was the fantasy player of the week last week for running backs, right? So I think the Rams win this game at home.
Yeah, he's coming on back pretty strong after his injury, and Kupp is playing. Puka is going to play. The offense is all in place. The only way Cleveland has a shot in this game is if their defense somehow just shuts down the Rams offense, but it shouldn't take many points for the Rams to win this game. So I'm going to go, because of what you said, with the Rams as well. G-Money, believe it or not, has Cleveland in this one.
I saw that. Yeah. All right. 49ers at Philly. Philly is getting all their tough games at home. I mean, they had Buffalo at home last week, right?
Yeah.
49ers at Philadelphia, rematch of the Super Bowl. I mean, not rematch Super Bowl, conference,
NFC,
right? I think
NFC Championship. Yeah.
NFC Championship. Yeah. So here we go. This is probably for supremacy in the NFC. Whoever wins this is going to be the home team, I think, right?
Potentially. I mean, there'll still be a game behind them, but I still think top to bottom, I've said since the beginning of the year, San Francisco is the team. Even when they went on their 3-game losing streak, I still put my faith in their ability, when healthy, to really make a difference. Purdy, sneaky, by the way. Look at his numbers. They're better than Hurts's. They're better than Dak's. I mean, he's like MVP numbers. I think he's kind of flying on the radar right now. And Philly's just won too many close games against real good teams. Like, sooner or later, you're gonna just lose a game. And I think this is the week to do it. So I I'm taking Frisco. No disrespect to Philly, though. I absolutely think they're a good team. They're going to be right there in the end. They will be in the NFC Championship game. Probably a rematch in this one. So I'm going to take Frisco, though.
By the way, your numbers about Purdy may be accurate, but the one thing you're not correct about it when it comes to Purdy, he is in the second half when his team is losing, 2 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and I believe his QBR is like 47% or something like that. Whereas in the same situation, Mr. Jalen Hurts, when his team is behind the second half, 10 touchdowns, no interceptions, and has not lost one of those games when his team's been behind the second half.
Yeah. Well, he'll be going up against San Francisco defense this week, so we'll see what happens about that. But so I take it you're taking Philly.
Oh, until they lose.
Until
they play the Cowboys.
Me and G both have San Francisco.
All right, this game on paper without Joe Burrow playing, Jags and Bengals at Jags should be a layup game, but the Jags are always primed to a loss when this situation shows up. And by the way, the Bengals have showed a lot of heart on defense this year. If anything's improved more than anything on their team, it's been their defense. So they can play defense. They've still got all weapons, but their quarterback, they're loaded everywhere. I think they have the best wide receiver room in the NFL. If they could just make plays, they might hang in there. I'm taking the Jags to win, but closer than you think.
Excuse me. I agree with you. I think Jacksonville can win this game pretty handily, but I don't discount the Bengals just because they don't have Burrow, because they still have great talent, good playmakers, defense has stepped up. And from what I've seen from Browning so far, he can throw the ball. I mean, he's a natural quarterback who can put the ball on a line and get it to where it needs to be. So when you get guys like Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, and other playmakers in the mix there, no pun intended, they can certainly make a difference. So yep. I think with you, I think this is going to be closer than people think, but in the end, Jacksonville. So all three of us Jacksonville now.
Yeah. All right. Third and long. I'm going to go with the easy one for me. It's Dolphins Commanders. Dolphins win this game by maybe 35.
Yeah, the Commanders' defense is horrible. Could be one of the worst in the league, and we know the Dolphins' offense is extremely powerful. But Sam Howell throws for 300 yards every single game, it seems like. I think he's second in the NFL in yards passing right now.
Yes.
And I think he'll do some more of that in this game too, against the Dolphins. I think they, just by sheer of having to keep up with Miami, they'll score enough points to keep it within 2 touchdowns ish. So I'm not taking them. I'm going to take the Chargers over the Patriots.
That's a good one. That's a good one as well. All right.
Yeah.
4th and inches.
I thought long and hard. I was going to do Atlanta and the Jets, as I said earlier, but I'm going to go with, by the way, last week, the 4th and inches pick was the only pick that went to overtime, was the Bills-Eagles game. Neither of us had it. We both had the Cowboys for the 3rd and long. We both killed it because they won by 35. I'm going to go.
By the way, my 4th and inches was the Giants and the Pats, which should have went to overtime, but
right.
The Pats, Bill Belichick ordered the guy. He ordered the code red, and they missed the field goal at the end from 35 yards.
So it was a 3, yeah. And mine was Pittsburgh and Cleveland, which was a pretty close game, but it ended up being a 6-point game.
You already touched upon it. I want to give you mine. It's Atlanta and the Jets, because the Jets needed to be 4th and inches to win this game.
All right, okay. I respect that. I'm going to interesting one here. Arizona Cardinals and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I saw that, and for a minute I thought about it. It's going to be a close game, I think, closer than people think. But I also think it's going to be a blowout too. So, I mean, a high-scoring game. So, well, I don't know, maybe not. Pittsburgh has a really good defense. That's a good one, though. Are you going that way?
Yeah, I'm going Arizona, Pittsburgh for my potential overtime game this week.
Nice.
All right, so you have your 3rd and long is the
Dolphins Commanders.
Miami game, and your 4th and inches is the Jets and Atlanta. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
All right, man.
All right, man.
Good one.
Hey, playoffs.
There you go. All right. Talk to you soon.
Let's go. All right.